Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to see we have standing room only at the back, so tremendous turnout, so thank you for your time. My name is Alan Brown. I'm the Sales Director at Logicalis, and I'd like to welcome you, our customers, our partners, and the press to this afternoon's event, Bridging IT Strategy and IT Operations. I'll be your MC for this afternoon. We've got a pretty busy schedule, but one that I think you'll find very interesting, very exciting, and very beneficial. The main purpose for today's event is really threefold. It's to celebrate, it's to communicate, and it's to network. First of all, to celebrate. It was exactly 6 months ago to the day, yesterday, that Logicalis Australia acquired Thomas Duryea Consulting, bringing together two of the industry's well-respected organisations. So this event is perfect for us to communicate the real benefits that both organisations can bring you as customers and as partners. Finally, to network. We've set up, as you probably saw outside, we've set up an exhibition area outside with individual booths for each of the practice areas that you now have available to you as customers and partners. And this will help you understand the real added strings to our bow that you can now take advantage of. So I really encourage you during the informal networking lunch to take time to visit each of those booths and to benefit from those. So on to the agenda. Before we get to the exhibition and informal networking lunch, we have 5 key sessions that we'll be running through. First of all, we'll have a platinum sponsor address by Dell Australia. We then have a very intriguing CEO Q&A panel, which will be facilitated by our guest presenter for today, Peter FitzSimons.
Hooray!
Hooray! I'm sure that noise came from over here. Now, Peter's interviewed some of the world's most famous people, from George W. Bush to Diego Maradona and to many other famous people. So I'm sure you won't shy away from asking the tough questions, Peter, and we can rely on you for that. That should be very exciting and very interesting. Then I'm going to welcome Richard Fox-Smith, the CIO of Brookfield Global Integrated Solutions, to the stage. Richard will be sharing with you some of the challenges he's faced and how he's managed to overcome some of those. Then the main presentation of Bridging IT Strategy with IT Operations will be presented by Michael Chanter, the National General Manager for Thomas Duryea. And he'll be really putting a lot more flesh around the unique capability that we're able to offer, again, our customers and our partners. Then I'll re-invite Peter FitzSimons back to the stage for a special guest presentation, which is called Little Theories of Life, which I'm reliably informed, Peter, that you don't need any slides because you use words to paint wonderful pictures. Is that correct? Indeed. Okay. That's the summation of the presentation. Okay, good. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll then move on to the exhibition and an informal lunch, which I encourage you all to join. Now, before we get to the exhibition and informal lunch, these 5 sessions stand between you, lunch, white wine, red wine. So if I can ask, if you have individual questions, if I can ask you to save those till the end, particularly in the informal networking lunch, because both the CEOs, Peter FitzSimons, and all of the presenters will be available during that session. So please take the time to engage, introduce yourself, and ask whatever questions you may have. So before we go to the first presentation, I do want to give a special thanks to our partners and sponsors for the day that's helped today come about. First of all, our platinum sponsor, Dell Australia, our gold sponsor, Cisco, our silver sponsor, EMC, and our bronze sponsors, all 9 of them, Citrix, AppSense, Nutanix, Zerto, Trend Micro, Commvault, Flexera, VMware, and Mimecast. So can I please ask for a round of applause for all of those? Thank you. So now on to the first presentation. It'll be the Platinum Sponsor Address given by Chris Kelly. So by way of introduction, let me introduce Chris. With 20 years experience in the IT industry, Chris has had the opportunity to build and lead high-performance teams in the fields of IT consulting, sales, product management, operations, and marketing. He's worked extensively across the Asia-Pacific region. He's worked for Lenovo for 5 years, and then for Cloud FX, based out of Singapore for almost 3 years as the Chief Operating Officer. He returned to Australia and to Dell Australia in February 2005, taking the position of Executive Director and General Manager at the Enterprise Solutions Group. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Chris Kelly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for your time here today. It's a real honour for me personally to be able to celebrate the collaboration of two long-standing Dell Technologies partners in the formation of Thomas Duryea and Logicalis. As Alan mentioned, my name is Chris Kelly. In my business, I talk to customers and partners a lot about the concept of being future ready. And I think it's particularly relevant today, given the collaboration of these two companies, in my mind, represents an excellent example of being future ready. Why do we focus on the concept of future ready? I think if I get to the key message behind the slide here, it's pretty apparent that we live in a digital age. It's an awesome time to be in business, but it can be an unsettling time. When you think about the benefits that are being derived from the technology that's available to us all, on a personal level, it's fantastic. As the father of 3 young boys, I'm constantly amazed at how technology is being introduced into their life from schooling, certainly an educational perspective, but just day to day, the adoption of technology and the urgency with which that technology is being adopted, it really never ceases to amaze me. So that's fantastic. But equally, when you think about the flip side, from a professional perspective, when you've got 7 billion connected people, literally every man, woman and child on the planet, and literally billions or trillions of connected devices, when you think about all the sensors and tools that are out there, the data that's being created as a result of that, it can be an unsettling time for many organisations. But it's not doom and gloom by any means. We see it as opportunity. When you think about emerging organisations that are taking the place of long-standing Fortune 500 companies, companies that didn't exist literally 2 years ago, and then you think even within the realms of just that Fortune 500 space, whereby it used to be that an organisation existed within that group for 60 plus years. They dominated that industry. It's now the life expectancy, if you like, of a Fortune 500 company to be in that group for less than 15 years. So when we talk about being future ready, it's about being able to survive and thrive today, but more importantly, being able to survive and thrive tomorrow and well into the future. And I guess that's also where we see an alignment between the theme of today and the future ready theme, in that it really does require the bridging of IT strategy with operations. It's through partnerships like the one that Dell has with Thomas Duryea and Logicalis that we're able to help organisations like yourselves navigate these opportunities, unlock the value that your business can bring to market. The urgency of change is the other driving force. Change is the new norm, we get that, but the pace of change is what can be unsettling. It's when we partner with organisations like Thomas Duryea and Logicalis, that we're able to help our customers have the agility to turn on a dime depending on what's required for them tomorrow. It enables them to deliver the freedom to their workforce to operate anywhere at any time. To make use of that data that's being created. To not simply be sitting on it as an expense, but to allow that to bring a competitive value proposition to the market. And ultimately, to do it all in a secure and controlled environment. At Dell, technology has always been about unlocking and enabling potential. We are going to continue striving forward with our capabilities to deliver meaningful solutions to our customers. If you hadn't noticed, we're in the midst of an integration of our own at this point in time. And I want to make sure that everyone, I guess, understands and takes away a key message from us today, is that regardless of the efforts we're driving internally to develop our capabilities around solutions and important themes in the market, we can't deliver any of this without partnerships. And I can say hand on heart, honestly, that it's with partnerships with the likes of Thomas Duryea and Logicalis that enable us to bring the full potential of our solutions. The coming together of these two organisations, honestly, in my mind, it brings a powerhouse of capability, and I can say that I'm proud to be a part of it. It's a pleasure to be a part of the event today. I want to thank you for the time, and I do hope I get the chance to speak with most of you after the session. We've got a booth out the front there where we'll be able to demonstrate our capabilities around some of the core solutions that we think you're looking to deliver at this point. I think I'll pass it back over to Alan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. So I'm really not too sure whether I'm encouraged by the data that says 8 seconds is the average human attention span, which means most of you got, from my presentation, my name is. But what's really exciting is a goldfish has 1 more second, so the goldfish would have remembered my name. So I'm really encouraged by that. So, but once again, thank you, Chris, and to Dell for being the platinum sponsor today. So now on to the next session, which I think will be really intriguing and exciting. It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce our guest facilitator for our CEO Q&A panel session. He's a sports star, best-selling author, well-respected columnist for the Sydney Morning Herald and Sun Herald. For those of you who are familiar with the Fitz Files would be well aware of that, and a television presenter on Fox Sports. He speaks 4 languages, has played rugby for Australia, and co-hosted radio shows with Mike Carlton and Doug Mulray. As mentioned previously, he's interviewed many famous people around the world, such as George Bush and Diego Maradona. So Andrew Thomas and Basil O'Raghaillaigh should be an absolute pushover. He's written over 20 best-selling novels, and in 2001 was Australia's biggest-selling non-fiction author, duplicating that feat in 2004 with Kokoda. Often seen tapping on his keyboard in the Avenue Road Cafe in Mossman with his trademark bandana. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Peter FitzSimons.
Thank you very much for that very, very tepid welcome. Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. Look, I hope I can do justice to the occasion. I don't think I know any of you personally. I still feel curiously like I'm among my own. I think probably for the fact that I'm married to Lisa Wilkinson, co-host of the Today Show. I'm told by many of my mates that makes me the president of the Australian Men Punching Well Above Their Weight Club. And I'm delighted to see so many of my fellow members here today. I'm making a lot of this up as I go along. I suppose what I am after that interaction, I think I'm probably a storyteller, is what I am. And as I say, I'm making this up as I go. I'm not going to hijack this occasion and beg you to read my books. I honestly, hand on my heart, hope to die. I don't care if you do or don't read my books. All I care is that you buy my books. I asked Alan to flick back to the Opera House because I do have a contract to write a book on the Opera House in 2 or 3 years' time. And the point I'm making about this is I love the story. I'm about to get into the story of why we're here today, but I love the story of the Opera House. Time magazine 2 years ago had a cover on the International magazine, the most influential building in the world. And they put on the Sydney Opera House. And the most wonderful thing about that was that it was conceived by one man, Jørn Utzon in Denmark, who was having mandarins for breakfast, and he started rearranging it, and came up with it, sent it to Australia, rejected by everybody, but one man believed in it. And one man got the drawing, actually took it out of the waste paper basket, got it all drawn up, got the 4 key decision makers, put them in a dinghy off Bennelong Point, and held it up to Bennelong Point so that they could see what it looked like. And the best part of all, 1954 Australia, which was surrounded by a white picket fence, meat and 3 veg, 14 white men sitting around a table of New South Wales cabinet, looked at it and said, yeah, we'll build that bastard. I mean, it is amazing. It is amazing that they did that. How am I going to draw this into Thomas Duryea? I think Andy Thomas, I think he's my Jørn Utzon. I think he's the guy with his 3 mates who started it all off 18 years ago. I think they were the ones that did it in a different way. Can I ask Andy to come up with a thunderous round of applause? Where is Andy? There he is. And I think Basil O'Raghaillaigh is the one that recognised what they built was valuable and we can go with it. And I think you're the community who say, yeah, let's build that bastard. All right, Jørn. We'll start with you, Jørn. I do like log cabin stories. So take me back to 18 years ago, you and 3 mates, university, scungy mates. I'm hoping you were starving in a garage somewhere, somebody's mother's garage, where you started the whole thing off.
It's not far from that, yeah. Probably not quite starving, but close. Yeah. It was. We started uni in '95. I met the guys, and it was about '98 where the opportunity sort of came for us to work out in the industry, and it was Dimension Data, one of our arch enemies that we got to work for first, and so needless to say we thought we could do it better than that.
And what was the guts of the idea? What were you doing? So it was a bitterly competitive industry. Everybody had a mother with a garage that was doing this. Why? Seriously, I did. I mean, more or less, or the grandpa. I'm being ruthlessly non-sexist here, but go on. Why did it work so well?
Yeah, it was really, so we were going out, and we were young uni students, didn't really know much at the time, and we were contractors, and we were going out to see these customers, and we were hearing from the customers that they wanted something different. What from the start? So first thing, they were buying automation, so they were being sold these big tech dreams of automation, right? And we were the uni students in the warehouses doing it all manually. Right? Yeah. We knew that this was not getting done in any automation. So, and we were getting sold smoke and mirrors right from back in the 90s. With nobody knowing how to make the smoke come out of the mirror? Well, more or less. Is that more or less it? Well, smoke was coming from somewhere.
Okay, so you build it up over 18 years, and then Logicalis comes along. So you're a global concern, started out in South Africa, you're in the USA, you're in the UK, you're getting bigger in Australia. I gather, why, when you look at all these possibilities to expand, why did you pick them?
Well, we looked at 18 different.
Is that working?
No, so we looked at 18 different companies, and it really came down to the brand and the reputation. So TD had a great reputation with its customers around technology transformation and being really passionate about technology and about helping their customers get an outcome. So we had a very good reputation about delivery.
Yep.
And also, when we looked at the business, it was a quality business, just in terms of the numbers and the solutions. And then when we met the people, we went, yeah, we could work with these people. Whereas we met a lot of people, we went, no, they're dickheads, we're not going to.
So, as I understand it, the essence of why Thomas Duryea has worked and worked well, there's a certain intimacy, there's a certain informality, there's a certain accessibility, okay, down home. You're a seriously big global corporate concern.
Yeah.
When you put those two together, how do you keep that same sense of intimacy and access when it becomes seriously pinstripes?
I can see why you interviewed George Bush. So we're very different. Most corporations are not built like Logicalis. So most corporations of our size would have lots of people in corporate telling me what to do. The guy who started this company, Jens, is an entrepreneur. He only has 10 people in corporate and they just add up the numbers. So there is nobody to give us direction globally. You make it up by yourself.
Right.
So while we're $2 billion global brand, I have to decide everything. Who I hire, you know, what we take to the market, etc., etc. So no decision leaves the country.
Right.
So people would be used to dealing with a local company like TD, who would have been agile and flexible, easy to get decisions made quickly, and we're identical to that because there is nobody outside the country besides me and the team that make those decisions.
So you don't really answer to anybody up on high?
Once a month I do, and that's it. We don't talk other than that.
Usually when you have two crowds come together, so my world is the publishing world, Penguin and Random have come together, and there's a certain merging and there's a certain people calling for the taxi as they head for the exits because it doesn't fit. You can't fit two companies into one. Somehow or other, you put two together and there's only two people that are gone and they wanted to go anyway.
Well, it's about we bought complementary skills. So the stuff that we do is basically around security and networking.
Yep.
And then the stuff that TD does is around Microsoft, desktop, data center. So we do completely different things. So we weren't buying another network security company. If we hadn't, there would have been lots of consolidation and redundancies, etc.
Yep.
But we were buying it, we were growing sideways, more capability.
All right, I gather this is filled with people who are the clients, who, again, the reason they've been coming to Thomas Duryea is they can get Andy on the phone, yes. At the moment, when 2 years from now or a year from now, when it's all merged and everybody, all good friends and jolly good company, does the phone call when they've got a serious problem go to you or does it go to Basil?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think
You haven't worked it out yet, have you?
whose mobile numbers on the board? Oh, look, I think, you know, when we decided that it was time to be acquired, you know, we'd been approached by a lot of different organisations, and we always sort of thought through how that would happen, and we've seen good and bad acquisitions happen in the industry. It's, you know, one of consolidation over time, and there were approaches from organisations where we knew that, you know, we would stand up in front of our staff, and the day that we announced it, they would be already sort of heading towards the back door, right? So just such different cultures, and you know, this was, I guess, an idea that was born out of, you know, a year of discussion that myself and Basil had, and mostly around the kitchen table, because it's a small industry, and you'll see us if we're in a cafe, so a lot of the conversation over about 12 months happened, you know, around my kitchen table at home just here. So, you know, over that time I got to know Basil, and I got to know, I guess, his ambitions and the ethos that he carries through his firm.
Define that ethos. What is the essence of the ethos that he has that you want that means that it works well, without the corporate mumbo jumbo?
Yeah, all right. So we just say it really simply what we're about. We just love the tech and we love the relationships, right? So, you know, when we get out to see a customer, we just got these guys that are just as passionate as they can be about what they're doing, and they want to share that with their customers, and the energy, you can feel it, right? And it's kind of, you know,
This will transform your industry.
And when I talk to Basil, he's got this ambition, not necessarily to be the biggest in the country, but he wants to be the best. He wants to be out there and being admired for the technology that they're delivering into market. So it's not quite the same sort of words, but very, very similar.
I'll ask this Basil to put his hands over his ears. Both hands. Is he a tech head or a business head?
He's not a tech head.
What is he, a marketer?
He's a leader. He's leading the organisation.
Okay.
So he's more intent on building an organisation as opposed to getting down there and talking about the technology.
All right, one more question before I just, whatever you say, we'll go no further than the Sydney Morning Herald, the Financial Review, and Channel 9. But I'm interested in that stuff. When this is a big deal. You guys built this for 18 years. There must come a time, either at your kitchen table or in your lawyer's office, where somebody puts a contract in front of you, hands you the blue pen. Did you have a moment's hesitation of, this is a really big deal, or was it, I can't sign this fast enough, this is absolutely the right thing to do?
You know what, the last 6 months have been absolute record breaker on record breaker. It's now that fuck, we shouldn't have sold this thing.
So you signed it and you felt good about it since?
Walked around the streets crying and
yeah. And what about you, Basil? So it's work, I gather you two seem to get on well? Or you did.
It's really the first acquisition I've been involved in my career that's gone well.
Really?
Yeah. All the acquisitions I've been involved in were thousands of people gone. Right? Because you're bringing two companies doing the same thing together, and you need to take costs out. Right? So what's made this go well is the fact that everybody has kept on doing what they're doing, and in the same office, on the same pay, dealing with the same customers, the same partner. So we haven't changed that much for people, so it has gone well from that perspective. Plus, people see value in each other. So we've got a group of both employees together, and very quickly they've seen value in each other and been able to cross-sell what each other do. So
your success to build what you've built has to be a curious combination of discipline of making the right decisions, but also a certain looseness to encourage people, to empower people to make the right decisions, but below. How do you two work together?
Well, basically, we try and leave each other alone as much as possible, because we're both two CEOs at the moment running two separate kind of divisions till we come together in another year. And so really, the key thing we've done together is build a vision for 2020.
Right.
So we sat down, we got input from 40 employees, and we said, okay, what do we want to be? What do we want the culture to be? What partners do we want? What industries do we want to be in? What verticals, etc. And we built a vision to say, here's where we're going in the whole company. Here's the size we want to be, etc. That's probably the key thing we needed to do, was to get everyone a picture in the future to say, this is where we're all headed.
Yes.
And we've done that and rolled it out and presented it together to all the employees. So that again has given people a sense of where they're going, what does it mean for them.
Okay, so as I understand it, you're wide, you're tall. Yes, so your business gets a lot wider and yours gets a lot bigger and wider.
Yeah.
Will the Thomas Duryea people still keep doing the Thomas Duryea thing? So that means that the customers stay with your people while you get wider. Is that the case?
Yes. Yeah. And my people continue to do their thing. So and we will continue to do this, and we'll make a number of acquisitions to get wider, to find new business models and new capabilities to bring to people.
And do you both agree on the vision of 2020, where you're going to be? My vision for 2020 is Australia becoming a republic, but don't get me started.
You got me in the lift on the way up the stairs and then like, do you like the Queen?
So, do you agree on the same vision?
It was almost self-evident. As we came together, we shared so many of the same values, and we have the same.
And what is the vision beyond big? Is it big? Is that the vision?
It's to be the most admired IT company in this country.
The most what?
The most admired.
Okay.
Yeah, getting big is the outcome. Right. That's the number. And as Andrew said, it's really about becoming the most admired IT company in our sector.
Okay, and what to become an admired IT company, not just to be a cold corporate monolith, what do you need? What is it that is actually the base? What is the vision? What is the culture? What are the things that you're going to be admired?
You have to create an empowered culture.
Yeah.
So that means that instead of people ringing me or Andrew for problems, they ring their project manager who's on site, their consultant who's on site, their sales rep who's on site, and they get a decision made straight away. Right. They don't have to ring either of us two to get a decision, as you do in larger corporates. So that's the first thing, is people going, these people are truly agile and flexible.
You actually care.
Yeah. And you are empowering people to make decisions. It's like when you go to check in to an airplane or a hotel, you want that person at the check-in desk to be empowered to make decisions if you have a problem.
Yes.
Okay, that's good customer service. So So what we're doing is developing a culture and a set of processes so that when a customer has a problem, they're not looking to me to solve it. They're talking to the guy right in front of them, and he goes, I work for a company that's a customer service ethic. I'm encouraged to do the right thing by my customers, and I'm going to. And I may get it right, and I may get it wrong, but I'm willing to take the chance, because I believe that even if I get it wrong, I won't get shot.
All right, Andrew, anything you wish to add to that? Is that the guts of it?
I'd agree. I'd say that we, and it's no different to now as we come together, you know, our goal over time has been to collect these people that love what they do, right? And it's infectious and it continues on itself. And you know, one guy comes to the business and then he tells his mates about the business, and they come to the business, and we go out to see a customer and they feel that love for the technology and, you know, the relationships. We've got customers that have been with us since we started the business, and it's friendships, and you know, it just rolls on like that. So collecting, you know, people together to create a culture that really feeds on itself and is sort of where it's got to go. As Basil said, we can't be pulling and pushing every button along the way. It's got to be the people that make those decisions and make it happen. They're the ones who create the feeling out of the customer sites and the partnerships with the vendors. So.
All right, last question. I can't follow the mumbo jumbo of you sign this and you integrate now and when do you actually, together, fully done? When are you together?
Over the next 12 months.
Right. And what happens on the day that you are fully integrated?
Not a lot, really. In that we've got a number of projects, and we have to obviously bring our financial systems together, our IT systems together, etc., etc. So the whole big to-do list of things you have to do to come together. But in terms of, if, you know, I'm a sales rep or a project manager or an SDM, on that day, does anything change? No. Right. Just means that we've integrated all the various back-end systems, etc.
Andy?
Yeah, look, we couldn't have solved it any differently. You know, when we announced it, it was quite evident that, you know, there's such a strength in this networking with Logicalis and the outsourcing with Logicalis, and we have, you know, these strengths around desktop and automation mobility and the data center. And so when our staff look forward and say, well, hang on, where do I fit? Well, you know, they brought us on because they didn't have that capability. It's not like in any areas of business they're trying to clash two of the same things together. Yeah. It just stands as a service model completely.
And if it does work, and in 2020 you're the most admired IT company in Australia, and you need a writer to put it together in a book, I think there must be someone we can get. Who can we get? Please thank our two CEOs. All right?
Thank you, Peter, and don't think it came to any surprise that Peter he pulled down punches and asked the tough questions, so thank you, sir. So I was asked to kind of summarise that. So for me, I think the simplest way of summarising that is 1 + 1, in this case, definitely equals 3. So later on you're going to be seeing a presentation from Michael Chenter around that, about the unique capability. So we're going to be putting a little bit more flesh around those practice areas rather than just throwaway lines. So let's now move on to our next session, which is our customer presentation. So Richard Fox-Smith is the CIO of Brookfield Global Integrated Solutions. So by way of introduction, Richard graduated from Sydney University, a local boy, in electrical engineering, and spent 15 years in technical engineering and support management roles. In 2008, he became the IT manager at Kennard's Hire, and after 5.5 years, he moved to Brookfield Global Integrated Solutions as the IT director. 2 years later, he became the CIO in September last year. Hence, with over 23 years experience in the technical engineering and IT industry, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Richard Fox-Smith.
Hi everyone, thanks for the introduction. 23 years, that explains why I can't read my notes in classes these days. So anyway, as introduced, my name is Richard Fox-Smith, working for Brookfield Global Integrated Solutions. We're a facilities management company, property management company and project management. Quite a lot of our business is IT being client facing, so we win contracts from clients. So IT is very much front and centre when we're working with our clients. So that's part of my role, is to be able to push that forward with our clients. what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was some work we did with TD last year. It finished around 1st of July last year, and it was around a IT platform upgrade where we were moving from, previously we'd been a joint venture, and we had about 200 odd users that we needed to get from our joint venture partner's IT system onto our own platform. At the time, we were running entirely on our corporate parents platform, and to bring that 200 users on was going to be a very costly exercise. We talk a lot about getting fit for purpose IT. Our organisation and the way we work is very different from other Brookfield companies in our corporate Australia environment. So the corporate IT platform for us was just not fit for purpose. So at that point, our board made a decision to back our ability to build our own IT platform to bring that joint venture in under this new arrangement. And we looked to TD to help us do that. So in a very short period of time, so I'm talking 3 months from decision making to project rollout, was basically a 3-month period to stand up our own IT infrastructure for Office 365, Windows 10 image, SCCM, the whole kit and caboodle around running IT. And the reason for that change for us was very much around cost structure and also getting the right solution to our end users. And very much, so to give you an idea of the cost modelling that we did, we were calculating that an average user was costing us around about $5,000 a year. Under the new model, we were looking closer to 1,000. So it was a very, very significant changes. And a number of those reasons were being able to scale the type of offering to our users. Quite a lot of our users are actually on client provided laptops and computing. So we actually only need very thin licensing for those people. So it was around getting that fit for purpose IT model and being able to deliver that back to the business in a very short period of time. So what did we do? What were some of the challenges that we had during that period? Obviously the time frame was extremely tight. Windows 10 was not yet golden imaged, but we took a risk to say Windows 8 wasn't quite there. We didn't want to be rolling out a new platform and be putting Windows 7 on it. So we actually took the gamble to put Windows 10 on. And that was a tight time frame because the golden image only came out a few days before we started pushing the main images. So there were a couple of challenges in there. A couple of driver issues, very, very early on stages, but to be honest, totally not a major issue. The success of using Windows 10, I would say, spoke for itself because we now have a brand new platform that is ready for a number of generations. The other part of the problem was when we were moving those 200 users, I actually had to be delivering a new ERP implementation for those clients. So my entire team was tied up doing the ERP transition of the 14 clients that came through. So I needed a partner who could step up and do all the heavy lifting with very little supervision from us to just get it done. And that was really part of, I guess, the advantage that we had by working with the TD guys who we'd had a reasonably strong relationship over a number of years already, from previous, from my time at Ken & Tyre. The other part that probably led to our success was really the fact that we'd actually been doing a bit of pre-consulting work around looking at what our future platform looked like. So we'd already done our homework. We knew what our app's landscape looked like. We knew a lot about our environment. So when we had to move quickly, we'd actually done a bit of planning. Whilst not for a particular purpose, it was much easier when we went for the total deployment. So the end result was we were pretty successful. We met all our deadlines. So the 1st of July was met. The client's success was evident with our teams, and we met all our objectives. And I think the other point that was a key for this whole thing was we leveraged all of the cloud technologies. We used TD Cloud to do our infrastructure. We used Office 365 where we could, and it was just a very, I wouldn't call it smooth, but it certainly was a very successful project, and we worked our way through it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Just a little summary on that. I think the thing that really stands out to me about a story like that is not so much the success or the speed or even the benefits delivered to the business, but just how much trust that Richard put in TD in this instance to deliver an outcome. It was a big gamble. We did the first deployment of Windows 10 in Australia, and in many cases, when we're delivering these types of solutions, we have our customers' careers in our hands, and his willingness to come and stand in front of us is Thank you, Richard. All right. My name's Michael Chandler. I'm the National General Manager for Thomas Duryea, and my dubious privilege today is to show you how 1 + 1 = 3. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do. I didn't get an intro today. I don't know why. I got cut out. It's too boring. But I've also been working for 20 years in IT, which just makes me feel old. But more importantly, the thing that really, I guess fundamentally, my experience through all those different parts of my career is I've never worked in an organisation that had the capabilities and the depth that TD had. And with this new acquisition under the Logicalis banner, I feel that we have something that's truly unique. So I just want to give you a little bit of a flavour of what that looks like. So when we talk about what we do, we talk about in terms of our 8 key or core practices. So if we start at the top with consulting and advisory, we break these things into three I guess, core parts of what you do. So we talk about it in terms of plan, build, and run. Or in customer parlance, strategy, projects, and operations. So what we're able to do with the capabilities we have in the team is start right at the top. So with many customers that are engaging in our industry, they're jumping straight into project stuff and doing little bits and pieces. What we can do, which is truly unique, I think, is come and help customers understand the journey from where they are today to where they need to be. And that's really fundamentally part of our delivering the consulting and advisory practice. So Richard touched on it earlier, that the starting point of a successful project is understanding where you want to land at the end. So with our C&A capability, we are now delivering what I would consider projects and strategies that are well above our weight. So as a couple of key examples, we've recently delivered an IT strategy which maps out where Brookfield Multiplex is going to be taking their business globally from an IT perspective for the next 3 years. So as a sort of small to medium, men punching above their weight, as Peter said earlier, I feel that TD and that capability that we have in our team now is fundamentally important to what we can do with our customers, because we were hearing earlier from Chris about just how much change is going on, the uncertainty. Giving customers comfort about where they're going is fundamental to that C&A capability. So we lead with that, and that's how we help our customers understand where they're going. Underneath that, we've got a suite of project services starting with mobility and collaboration. The mobility and collaboration practice is all about delivering and securing applications. And if you talk to customers, whilst we get into other components, the thing that matters is the application. That's the thing that everyone uses. So delivery of that across a whole lot of technologies, Office 365, Citrix, where we're Citrix's largest partner in Australia, Active Directory, Azure, Exchange, all those key collaboration technologies. Then we move across to DCS, Data Center Solutions. I talk about it as the blinking lights, server, storage, network, all of the stuff that consumes power in data centers, but it's also all those other components like backup, data protection, virtualization, all those things. So many people may not know this, but when Andrew told the story earlier, he talked about desktop as where we started. But about 10 years ago, we brought VMware to Australia, and as a part of that story, we do an enormous data center practice, and we've deployed VMware to over 400 customers around Australia, and we have a real depth of experience in that practice, and that's sort of reflected in the fact that the Evan Duryea of Thomas Duryea runs the practice. So Data Center Solutions has been a strong and long-standing capability. Next to that, systems management and deployment. This is where we started. This is about delivering the endpoint operating system and managing that operating system and automating that process and securing it all. So fundamentally for us, that's all about the Microsoft desktop and server platforms and how we manage and secure those from within the data center. And lastly, but by no means least, networking and security. Now I should really highlight that as a capability, this has always been TD's weakness, and it's fantastic now to have absolute enterprise-grade capability brought in as a part of the Logicalis team to deliver the networking and security capabilities around real enterprise network capabilities. So we've got a number of projects in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months where having a big brother in that space in Logicalis and being able to lean on Logicalis and bring those capabilities in has been fundamental to TD and the joint team winning work together. So that's the projects capability we have. And then underneath that, we talk about the things that are the operational components, the things that you guys would be needing to run your businesses day to day. So starting with Logicalis people, we've always had the ability to deliver professional services, but many of our customers are needing resources to come on site and do things for them for some period of time, whether it be managed or operational things or project things. And now we have the capability to draw on a big pool of people in the Logicalis people capability and put them on site for you. Managed services. Now this is an area where earlier you heard the CEOs talking about not having crossover. We both have managed services capability, but interestingly, 100% complementary. Logicalis has managed services offshore capability and a large capability to deliver offshore services. We have onshore capability. In the last couple of months, that again has led to some successes where we had a recent win with Sigma, as an example, where the customer needed onshore capability. We have a 24/7 service desk in Melbourne, and we can do that. Logicalis has not only been able to do that. Likewise, we have customers who have a constant 24/7 requirement where they need that offshore service desk capability, and that's a really complementary opportunity for us. And finally, cloud services. So both TD Cloud, Logicalis Cloud, and public cloud. And in this space, we're able to deliver what I think are some pretty fundamentally different things to other people. As an example, we do DR as a service, which is a service that we can offer to customers to take away that exciting thing of running a DR themselves, which is just expensive and meaningless in many customers' minds, and deliver that straight into our capability and manage that as part of our managed services. So when you look at it, we have, I feel, something sort of interesting here because we can cover the entire life cycle of the customer. Everything from what am I going to do, what's my plan, where am I going, to how do I run my business every single day of the week. Right? And we have many, many customers now that we do all of those things for. In some instances, we'll start with a very small engagement around where you want to go, and we end up running all their infrastructure. So in that circumstance, it's allowing them to focus on what it is that matters in their business. If you think about Richard's business, it's about managing facilities. It's not about managing IT infrastructure. So this type of capability, I feel, is something pretty unique. And as you would have seen, the theme of today is about bridging that strategy to operations. And that, I think, is something that you will not see in any other provider in market in Australia. And if you marry that with the customer service-centric view of the world, the access that you have to people like Andrew, Basil, myself, our attitude about engineering, that passion for excellence, then I really believe fundamentally we have something very different to offer to the customers and the vendors and partners today. So that's what it's about. Hopefully you can see what I mean. We definitely have an equation that adds up to more than the sum of its parts, and we're seeing that in terms of our business success. Andrew mentioned earlier, we've had record success in the last 6 months. So, with that, I'm going to take you over to something hopefully a bit more entertaining. So I'm going to reintroduce our guest today, Peter FitzSimons, who's going to share with us some of his little theories of life. But what I wanted to do is just very briefly tell you a little story. Peter likes stories. So I actually met Peter on a rugby training paddock probably too long ago to do either of us any credit to talk about when, but I was playing under 21 Colts for Sydney University. So I was fresh out of school. I was a strapping, about 10 kilos lighter-laying lad. And Peter FitzSimons was playing rugby for Australia at the highest level, which was interesting. So Peter was invited to run a training session with the first grade team at Sydney Uni, and the Colts were asked to come along and get involved in contact drills for the line-out, which if any of you have ever done that, you know that that just means you cannon fodder, right? Anyway, as we lined up, I might just get you to come up to stage for a moment, Peter. As we lined up, I took my place at number 4 in the middle of the line-out, and I glanced to my left to see who I was opposing, and to my horror, the first thing I noticed was that the guy that was next to me, his hands were about 50% bigger than my hands. And I was also looking at his shoulders. Anyway, of course, the ball was thrown straight to number 4 in the first drill, and 115 kilograms of freight train ran over the top of me. And look, I don't generally consider myself a little guy, and we needed to hire Peter, so we had someone taller than Alan. But that was the day when I developed my own little theory, which was that no matter what they say, size does matter. Anyway, please welcome Peter FitzSimons.
Thank you, Michael. I haven't seen him since probably about 25 years ago, wasn't it? When we met in the foyer, I didn't recognise him until he lay at my feet and screamed. It started to ring a bell. Look, you're building me up to be a much better rugby player than I was. I would love to be standing here a la my 5th latest biographical subject, John Eales, and regale you with stories about how I played 86 tests for the Wallabies, capped them on 54 occasions, scored 14 tries. Instead of that, you've only got me, never capped them, never scored a try. I only played 7 tests. I actually never like to say out loud, I only played 7 tests. I far prefer to say it's the absolute truth. David Campese and I played 108 tests between us. And I'm actually a great admirer of Campo. I think probably not quite as great an admirer as Campo himself is. Tim Moran once famously said of Campo that he fell in love with himself at an early age and has remained faithful ever since. And as one who's documented the last 35, 40 years of Australian rugby, I can say with some authority, Campo's the only member of the Wallabies ever to have joined the Mile High Club while sitting alone in first class. I'm joking, so it's okay. But in terms of, again, that rugby career, we're here at the Ivy, just over there, George Street. Down the road is the Four Seasons Hotel, which is the site of the most humiliating moment of my life on the eve of the Wallabies departing for the 2015 World Cup. They had a black tie soiree, fundraiser for the Leukemia Foundation, 600 people there. At the end of the night, big Buddha handy, huge Wallaby props. There was a lady in the corner, fabulous artist, doing a wonderful rugby tableau, and said, right, we're going to auction that off. Everybody here who's played international rugby has to come up, sign their name and the era in which they played. First one up, the great Dr. Marcus Sloan. Everybody applauds, they throw the signature up on the big screen, Dr. Marcus Sloan, lovely signature a la Paul Keating. Beautiful. Next one up, Nick Farr, and Marcus Sloan was 1972 to 1982. Next one up, Nick Farr Jones, 1984 to 1993. Campo, 1982 to 1996. Tim Horn, spanning 3 decades and 2 millennia. Tim Horn, everybody applauds Tim Horn, 1989 to 2001. And then it was my turn. And in all honesty, I had to write Peter FitzSimons, July. But what a great July it was. And I mentioned a little of that back line that was in the team that I was a part of. Farr Jones at halfback, Michael Delina 5'8", Tim Horn inside centre, Jason Little outside centre, and of course David Campese at self-centre. And the self-centre just went wherever the self-centre wanted to go. It worked for him, it worked for us. And knowing from chatting out there, there's quite a few rugby aficionados here who will know Campo's stats better than me. 101 tests, 64 tries, and 1 tackle. And that tackle comes 6 minutes before the end of the World Cup final, 2nd of November, 1991, Twickenham, 75,000 people there, 430 million watching from around the world. Rory Underwood, you remember the English winger, breaks free, heads for the line. 5 minutes to go, Wallabies defending a 12-6 lead. Rory Underwood heads for the line. The only thing between him and victory, Campo, who can't get out of the way quick enough and somehow gets tangled in his legs and brings him down. And suddenly the English and the Australian forward packs close in over Campo. And somewhere in that dark netherworld, in that vicious forest of feet, somebody slippers Campo, kicks him right in the head. And if you remember the famous footage, Campo shakily rising from the green turf of Twickenham, the red blood meandering down his pale cheek, dripping onto his golden jersey, shaking with fury, saying to Derek Bevan, the Welsh referee, pointing English forward pack, saying, one of these bastards has just kicked me in the head, you've got to send one of them off. And Nick Farr-Jones, the Wallaby captain, in a moment of wonderful leadership, steps forward and says, to be fair, Campo, it could have been any one of 29 of us. At which point, Derek Bevan, the Welsh referee, coughs and says, actually, that could have been any one of 30 of us. My all-time favourite great Australian moment, and it's odd how your life can go in different directions, that you don't know where you're going to end up, whatever. I love that line from Vladimir Nabokov, the great Russian writer, who says, common sense tells us that our existence is but a brief crack of light between two eternal walls of darkness. The idea being, of course, before you're born, she's dark, after you die, she's very dark indeed. Unless you're religious, you've got eternal life, good luck to you, I don't. I've got this crack of light, and I want it to be a rainbow crashing into a kaleidoscope factory. I want colour, I want movement, I want passion. And for me, I feel at my best when I'm doing sort of quintessentially somehow Australian stuff, Australian stories. And my all-time favourite great Australian moment occurs very shortly after the scene I've just described. Because the Wallabies win the match. This wave of euphoria bursts upon Twickenham, sweeps the Wallabies off the field, up the tunnel, into the dressing room, champagne corks flying across the room, advance Australia fair, waltzing Matilda. We are the champions, everybody's into it, with the exception of one man. There in the corner is the president of the Australian Rugby Union at that time, a wonderful man by the name of Smokin' Joe French. He was a 75-year-old Queensland sugarcane farmer, a wonderful man with a pure rugby heart, but so I say this with respect, he had nevertheless a head like a peanut, because he was so bald and so burnt brown by the Queensland sun, and known as Smokin' Joe with such a shriveled head, known as Smokin' Joe because in his whole adult life, if he was awake, he had a Marlboro in his mouth, with the exception of the World Cup final, when he's placed in the royal box beside the most beautiful woman in the world, Princess Diana. And of course, royal protocol demands that while in the royal presence he not be allowed to smoke. So while everybody else is crying out, go Wallabies, go England, try, there's Smokin' Joe, sitting quietly, his lungs crying out for the tar, the nicotine, the burn at the back of the throat. Finally, the Wallabies win, waving before it, up the tunnel, into the dressing room, champagne corks, waltzing with it, advance Australia fair, everybody's into it with the exception of one man. There in the corner, 75-year-old Queensland sugarcane farmer, Smokin' Joe French with 2 Melbournes, easing it into his torture lungs, and the assistant Wallaby coach, Jake Howard, goes up to him and says, Smokin' Joe, you've just spent 2 hours beside the most beautiful woman in the world. What is Princess Diana like? Smokin' Joe mortally replies, he knows fuck all about rugby. These days, I always suspect a far more ecumenical audience than merely rugby people, and there'll be people of differing football passions and indeed people with no passion for football at all. I might say Aussie rules, I've been a great critic of it over the years. I've since come to the conclusion I was wrong. I think it is the quintessential Australian game embodying our greatest values. They talk about Aussie rules. As far as I can see, there are no rules to speak of. And whatever there are, everybody seems to ignore. I love the fact that, we saw the State of Origin last night. What did they stop the whole damn thing for 3 minutes in that try in the 15th minute? I mean, did he get it over the line? Did he not get it over the line? Did he put his foot out? Did he not put his foot out? We see that in every sport in the world, bar one, Aussie rules. Even in an Aussie rules grand final, the bloke tears along the boundary line. Foot in, foot out, ball in the right hand, ball in the left hand, close enough, good enough, mate, just keep going. There are 36 football codes in the world. 35 of them have an offside rule. There is only one football code in the entire world, no offside rule. You're an Australian, mate. Go where you damn well please. But the best of it, the absolute best of it, is the scoring system. The two big poles in the middle, the two little poles outside. And if you go for goal and you get it, you bloody beauty, 6 points. And if you miss, well, you had a go. Take a point. The only sport in the whole world where you get a point just for having a go. Rugby league, often if I'm in places like Darwin or Launceston, I have to explain the differences between rugby union and rugby league. I always say I played rugby union, John Hopewadi played rugby league. I always, however, go on to defend John Hopewadi, who of course arose to notoriety around the world for using his finger in the tackle. We all know the story. The most classic example of our time of the terrible damage that can be done by a simple misunderstanding. That day, just before he goes out, his coach, Terry Lamb, takes him aside, puts his arm around him and says, "Now today, Hopper, I want you to make your mark in the annals of rugby league." One thing led to another, and there were many tears before bedtime. In terms of writing Australian stuff, I suppose lately a lot of my passion has been with the Australian Republic. And I'm not going to, again, seriously hijack this occasion to talk about the Republic, but I say my interest in Australian politics, I love Australian politics, basically for our egalitarian nature. I love the fact that in this country, we don't have an Air Force One or an Air Force Two. We don't have a First Lady or a First Man. We don't fly our senior politicians 80 kilometres in helicopters between Melbourne and Geelong, at least not often. But the best example I can offer of this quintessential nature of Australia, egalitarian nature of Australia, in '91, after 6 months of faxes and phone calls, I was finally able to achieve an interview with the Prime Minister of the day, Bob Hawke. All he could spare me was 10 minutes at half-time of a soccer game between Australia and Brazil at the Sydney Football Stadium. Sure enough, at half-time, into the corporate box, Prime Minister of Australia, Bob Hawke, sits down, just the two of us. I put the tape recorder on the table and I said, "Sir, tell me about your greatest sporting moment." And he sets the scene. There he was on the third fairway of the Royal Canberra Golf Course, and at the moment that he strikes the ball, it's the sweetest sound he's ever heard. It sails away towards the green, a little bit to the left, but he's made allowance for the wind. Lands on the green a little bit to the right, but the spin that he so cleverly put upon it means it's trickling towards the cup for a hole-in-one. The only one in his whole life, the only time a sitting president or prime minister ever got a hole-in-one. And he's just getting to the climactic moment of this fabulous story when suddenly a waitress appears. Nice, middle-aged Australian woman, thingamy-bob in the hair, keeping her hair back, Spotless Catering, that maroon apron with the squiggly white writing, Spotless Catering, who without so much as a "by your leave, excuse me, Mr. or anything like that, simply says, "How do you have your coffee, Mr. Hawke?" Bob Hawke, no eye contact whatsoever, imperiously flicks his left hand. His way of saying, "I'm the Prime Minister of Australia. I'm getting to the climactic moment of the fabulous story that will run page 1 tomorrow's Sydney Morning Herald. Please don't interrupt me now. Come back in a minute or two, then you can interrupt. Then you can gently ask me." That's not what he said, but that is what that meant. And she, to her eternal Australian credit, doesn't hesitate half a second, says, "How do you have your coffee, Mr. Hawke?" And I cannot do justice to his reply, but it was like his left eyebrow was a fat caterpillar slumbering in the sun, suddenly bitten by a bee that shoots up his forehead, and he fixes her with his laser beam stare, and he starts in, ruff, 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 barks at her for about 10 seconds, she flounces off and returns 1 minute later with a beautiful cup of creamy coffee and 2 Tim Tam biscuits for me, nothing for the Prime Minister. And as I sat there, sipping my coffee and eating both of my Tim Tams, while he had diddly squat, I thought, what a terrific country this is to be. You wouldn't see it in any other country in the world. Can you imagine the President of the United States, the Queen of England, the President of Russia, Emperor of Japan, any of the Asian leaders, any of the South American leaders ever being treated in such a cavalier fashion as that? And yet we do it in this country on a daily basis. It's in our blood. In recent times, a lot of my output, I suppose my political output started with writing Kim Beazley's biography. I knew so little about my subject when I began that after my first meeting with Kim in Canberra, I flew back to Sydney and what I thought was triumph, sent an email to my editor-in-chief saying I've just agreed to write Kim Beazley's biography. I might be needing some time off. He sent me back an email saying, "Well done, I'm sure you'll do yourself and the Herald proud, I think you should know, however, that Beasley is spelt with a Z. So began the 2 most dreadful years of my life, staring at the cracks in the ceiling night after night, thinking, God help me, whatever made me think I could write a political biography. And I always went back to a story the Herald had sent me on in '93 to accompany the late, great Gough Whitlam on a 5-day sojourn to Perth. I've never forgotten that trip, for going through the Ansett Air Terminal at Sydney Airport, such as it then was, Mr. Whitlam leading the way, me with the carry-on luggage behind, both his and mine. And as we go through the metal detectors, Mr. Whitlam must have still had his house keys or his car keys in his pocket, and sure enough, there's a sudden like that. Little guys coming to hover all over with those metal wand detectors, and Mr. Whitlam, without breaking his stride, turns to them and says, I think you'll find it's my aura. No. And in recent times, most of my output has been on military books. I've been up with the centenary of the First World War. I've just about finished my book on Villers Bretton. I was just tapping out really quite literally the last few paragraphs just in the green room in there. I'll leave you on this. I suppose it's because I've done Kokoda and Tobruk and Gallipoli and from El Posse here, now Villers Bretton. Next I'll probably do Battle of the Hamel. I suppose it's because of that I'm aware of the significance of tomorrow's date. Tomorrow will be, and I've got a piece about it in the Good Weekend, that, 2 days' time, that will be the 75th anniversary of the first time a radio station goes out live to a news event as it actually happens. And it was, of course, at the height of the Battle of Britain that the famous BBC broadcaster, Jonathan Smithers, with rising excitement of his voices, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we cross live to the Dover airfields, where the Battle of Britain is at its height. Are you there, Godfrey Hornblower? And if you listen to it on the tape in the Imperial War Museum in London, as I have, it'd raise the hairs on the back of your neck, because you get about 5 seconds of crackle, 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 nothing, nothing, nothing. And then you hear as clear as a bell, meow, 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 the sounds of the planes taking off and landing, and the voice of Godfrey Hornblower comes back, absolutely stunned that this new technology is working. He says, yes, I'm here, Jonathan, and I'm here with one of the pilots, originally from Ireland, but flying for Great Britain today. What's it like up there, Seamus O'Flaherty? And the voice of the Irish pilot, Seamus O'Flaherty, crystal clear. His exact words, he says, well, it's tough. There were fuckers to the left. There were fuckers to the right. There were 3 fuckers at 2 o'clock and 2 fuckers at 11 o'clock and another fucker behind me. And there's this sudden stunned silence rather in the manner in which Basil has greeted me now. And it goes on the tape for 11 seconds before Godfrey Hornblower can gather himself to say, we should explain to the BBC One audience that a fucker is a type of German aircraft. Aye, that they are. But these fuckers were Messerschmitts. Thank you.
Okay, well, how do you follow that? You just don't, basically. So Peter, thank you. You did a fabulous job, and you definitely painted the most beautiful pictures with your words. I'll forever remember John Hoppawate, the 75-year-old chap smoking the 2 Marlboros next to Princess Diana. I'm a soccer fan rather than a rugby fan, obviously from England, but the only rugby story I can recollect is the World Cup final, England versus Australia. I can't remember the year, so Peter, you might be able to help me. But it was the year that Johnny on the spot, Johnny Wilkinson, kicked England to the...
2003.
2003, thank you very much. I knew I could rely on you there. Kicked England to the World Cup final, and to success, much to the dismay of Australians who said, you can't score a try, you can only kick. So I was in the Greengate Hotel in Killara, and it was packed to the rafters. There was 250 people in there, 3 English people, one of them me, with an England shirt on. Never had so many ice cubes hit the back of my head. I'm sure that was meant for somebody else, but it ended up hitting me. And there was a little scuffle in the corner, and then all of a sudden the 3 English people ended up being 2. One of them was either carried out or was exited by the bouncers. So there was 2 of us. I'm at one end, and the other chap's the other, 250 Australians supporting, and that was obviously the year that England won. So this chap, feeling very lonely at the other side of the room, came over to me, 6'4", and this chap was about 5 foot nothing. And he comes up to me and he looks at me and he goes, "Can I stand next to you?" And I said, "No." I said, "Go over there, we've got them surrounded." So it was then he realised, Jesus, the English really are mad. But anyway, it was good for us, but held a very good spirit. So just to wrap up today's session, I just wanted to thank you, particularly our sponsors, for making this afternoon possible. To all our presenters, Peter, thank you so very much for joining us, and to our customers, and Chris Kelly and Richard Fox-Smith, and Michael Chento, thank you so much for doing such a great job with that 1 + 1 really does equal 3. And most of all to you, our customers, our partners and the press, because without you, we wouldn't be here. I did want to remind you of the packs that you received. There is a survey form in there, so please complete that and hand that in to anybody with a Logicalis or Thomas Duryea badge. But finally, I do want to recognise probably the two ladies that put all of this together. So is Renata Di Stefano around? Stand up, please, Renata. So we have Renata and Hannah Joyce. Where's Hannah? She's hiding. Hannah, you have to come quickly. I just want to recognise these two ladies who, you can imagine putting an event like this on was an enormous amount of work, and the two ladies did an amazing job. So with that, I'd like to declare the exhibition and networking lunch now open. Please join us. Thank you.